Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Life channel, and today we're going to be talking about the transmission on my Volvo S80. So this is a 2009 car. It's got the Aisin 6-speed. It's a TF-80SC transmission. Yeah, and I'm just going to be talking, well, it's known as the Geartronic transmission, and I'm just going to be talking about sort of what it's like to live with, what it's like, how it sort of handles, if you know what I mean. A lot of gearboxes, they can be rubbish or good. Well, I'm just going to sort of pick my general experience from this gearbox and explain to you guys what it's like to have. So let's get straight into this. So like I said, it's the Aisin box. It's a nice robust box if you look after it. It can take up to 450 Newton meters of torque safely. You can eke a bit more out of them, but I wouldn't really recommend going too mad, just because you're going to run into a lot of problems. But this car's done 87,000 miles now. I've put 5,000 of those on, so I've sort of developed a reasonably good idea of how this gearbox is. This is the first ever automatic gearbox that I've owned. I've driven a fair few others. I've driven the BMW ZF boxes, Volkswagen groups, the DSG as well, so the twin clutches, and this, to be honest, works just as well as any of those. It can be a little sluggish on sort of just day to day. If you're going for an overtake, sometimes it can often, on the kick down, you'll find it does sometimes select too low a gear, so it revs quite high and sort of misses your maximum torque point, but it gets itself sorted after a while. These are quite torquey engines, these D5s, so you can sort of forgive it for doing that. Day to day though, it's an absolute joy to live with. It's really smooth. It's a 6-speed transmission, so it's relatively economical as well. This at 60 miles an hour, sort of on a motorway run, you're going to achieve 50 to 60 miles per gallon in one of these, which, to be honest, I think is fantastic. We've also got a manual mode as well, and you can change, when you're stationary, you can change up to third in manual mode, which is useful for if you're on sort of a slippery surface, if you're on ice or grass or anything like that. You can really slow down how the wheels turn, slow down the sort of aggression of the clutch coming in, which means that you're less likely to break traction on the wheels. So that's a really good feature. And then obviously you've got the manual that you can use while you're driving as well. Then you've just got your standard drive, neutral, reverse and park. I think on later models they did offer like a sport mode and an eco mode as well, which just changed shift points a little bit. I think that might be available on this car if you have the 4C suspension, where you can adjust the suspension accordingly. Well, this is just sort of a standard suspension setup on this car. So yeah, but like I said, day-to-day driving, it's really smooth. And actually, if you try and push the car, the gearbox copes really well. It changes incredibly quickly at speed. It feels almost like a twin clutch gearbox with how quickly this thing can shift when you're on it. Again, when you're on manual mode as well, it does react nice and quickly as well, which is always a plus because it sort of inspires a bit of confidence. I know the gearboxes before these, which were AWW gearboxes, I'm not sure the actual make, but that's just the model designation, they were much less robust and much more sort of problematic in terms of how they drove. They could sort of brake in cold weather and everything like that, and I think they're only a 5-speed as well, so they got less fuel economy than this did. So this was a really welcome sort of improvement, this Geartronic gearbox, the Aisin box. So yeah, if you're looking to get a Volvo with this gearbox, I'd definitely recommend it. The shifting itself is very smooth. Initially when you start the car, it can be slightly harsher, or it can also, I find, sort of cold mornings. Obviously the diesel engines are a bit grumpy on cold mornings anyway. They take a little short while to warm up, but the gearbox sort of seems to take on the same character quite often as I accelerate sort of out of the driveway and down the road here. It holds on to gears quite a long time. I think it's intentional, to be honest. I think it might be to sort of try and generate some temperature within the gearbox itself, just to get the fluid going. But it'll quite often hold it to 2,500 to 3,000 RPM. It only does it for about three or four gears, and then once you're out on the open road, it's absolutely fine. So that's something to bear in mind. Also, if you're taking sort of a sharp bend up a hill, there's one locally to me where it does it. The car sometimes sort of changes midway through the bend, which is fine if you're just sort of pootling along, but if you're sort of pushing it, it can be a bit off-putting. So I find what I do is I knock it into manual mode to hold it in the gear, and then it's just much more effective for going up the hill. So sometimes it does sort of have a mind of its own, but it sort of does it in a way that's not too bad, if that makes any sense at all. But yeah, overall guys, it's a really nice gearbox to drive with. Really easy. The gear shifts are smooth, they're comfortable, sort of befitting to this sort of luxury car, as it is a nice big luxury saloon. So yeah, for those of you who are considering one of these cars, this gearbox is also in the it's in every Volvo product really for the same period. So it's in the S60, the V60, S80, V70, XC70, XC90, and pretty much all the others. So yeah, that's it guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if I've been helpful to you, or if I've just wasted sort of 7 minutes of your day. Give us a follow on Instagram as well, at Drive Life Volvo. We're doing really well, we're growing nicely, so I'd appreciate a follow there. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.